It's not just because your product is white and thick that you can claim that it has SPF benefits. No. There is a lot of confusion regarding ISO standard. Many entrepreneurs that want to develop a cosmetic product think that their product needs to be ISO certified. No mistake can be done after this video. Today I'm breaking down 5 ISO standards and more importantly, how they apply to you when you are developing a cosmetic product. So what is ISO? ISO, I will say ISO. ISO stands for International Organization for Standardization. The headquarters is in Geneva and it is an independent, non-governmental organization with members from 167 countries. This is what is important for you to consider. As a cosmetic entrepreneur, you don't need your product to be ISO certified. ISO are actually standards, methods, protocols, and best practices, and you hire laboratories that work according to those standards. Thus, you receive reports regarding the test performed on your product, but not certification. These reports become part of your product documentation that certify that your product meets ISO standards, meaning that they are following ISO methods to measure specific properties of your product. It's not just because your product is white and thick that you can claim that it has SPF benefits. No. Let's talk about the specific ISO for that, which is ISO 24444. This specific ISO testing applies to any sunscreen product that will absorb, reflect, or scatter UV rays and intended for use on human skin. So what really happens for you? You develop a sunscreen formula, then you contact a lab that is ISO 24444 certified. You send them your product and they test it according to this specific ISO standards. Finally, they provide you with a detailed report. What will be included in your report? Your product SPS value, which is the key information, statistical analysis and confidence intervals, individual subjects results, and the test conditions performed and the methodology. This testing usually takes between 4 to 8 weeks to be performed from the submission to the final report. When to schedule it? It's better to schedule this testing after your formula is finalized, but before the manufacturing phase. You will need to include the results and this report in your PIF to legally make this SPF claim. Regulators, such as safety assessors, may request this documentation during inspection. By the way, if you want to start gathering information from day one, check out my PIF checklist tool and guide to ease the filling of this crucial document. Link in the description, or you will find it on my website, cosmeticlab.com. Don't you think that consumers prefer a product that is more specific, a product that claims protection against UVA, for example? Yeah, I think so too. And there is a specific ISO for that. ISO 24442 specifies the in vivo testing method for determining the UVA protection factor. So it's the same process as for FPF testing, usually performed by the same labs, and can be bundled with the SPF testing for cost and time efficiency. What you will receive is a report with your UVA PF value, the UVA UVB ratio calculation, the testing methodology, and the results on the individuals. While the EU accepts UVA testing, the US FDA accepts different methodology and regulation. If you are selling globally, discuss with your lab which test will satisfy all the markets you want to target. For the EU market, you cannot launch a product that has been developed in any kind of manufacturing facility. No. You need to look for a manufacturer that is certified ISO 22716 as your next partner. ISO 22716 is the international standard for good manufacturing practices, or GMP, that we have talked about in many other videos. This standard aims for the reproducibility and consistent quality development for cosmetics. It also ensures reduced contamination risks and facilitate compliance with regulatory requirements, especially in Europe under the regulation EC 1223/2009. So in practice, again, you don't get your product ISO 22716 certified. Instead, your manufacturer gets certified. So you can ask your manufacturer to send you their certification that you will be able to include in your PIF. So why does it matter for you? As I said, it ensures that your product has been developed and produced under standardized quality conditions, and it demonstrates your commitment to put on the market a quality product that is safe. It also reduces your liability risk, and it is often required by retailers. So some question that you can ask to your manufacturer: when was your certification last renewed? Have you had any major non-conformities? Do you have other quality certification? How do you train your staff on GMP? Okay, that can seem like a lot. If they have a recent GMP certification, that may be just enough for you. this ISO 22716 is not specific to your product, contrary to the ISO 11930, and is a non-negotiable if your product has even an ounce of water. The ISO 11930 is the international standard for the evaluation of antimicrobial protection for cosmetic products, so the preservation efficacy. It is commonly referred as the Preservative Challenge Test, and it is a key requirement for demonstrating that your product is protected against antimicrobial contamination throughout its shelf life. And don't assume that because you have used a natural preservative system that you don't need this test. So what happened for you? You have developed your formula that contains water. You contact a microbiological testing laboratory. You send them a sample. They challenge your product with microorganisms and they monitor their growth over 28 days, usually or more. Then you will receive a challenge report that will certify if your product preservation system has passed the test or not. All the raw data regarding the log of reduction of the microorganisms, the testing, the protocol, the methods, following the ISO standards, and recommendation if your product has failed the test. So again, if your product has an ounce of water, it is a non-negotiable test, and it is one of the most important safety test assessment. The report that you will receive becomes part of the safety assessment part of your PIF and is crucial for demonstrating that your product is safe. I have made another video that compares different preservative systems. So if you don't know yet which one to use depending on your product, depending on your marketing, on your brand, and so on, I will link the video at the end of this one. So of course, using a natural preservative system is great for marketing purposes, as well as being certified by the ISO 16128. The ISO 16128 has been developed to harmonize and clarify the definition and calculation methods for natural or organic ingredients and products worldwide, because there are too many different definitions for natural depending on the country or the region. So what happens for you? Instead of sending your product, like for most of the other ISO, this ISO will provide you with calculation methods. Then you and or your formulator will do the calculations for natural organic percentages. While this ISO doesn't require a third-party certification or a laboratory testing, some companies choose to have this calculation performed, verified by third parties. So what will you receive? Well, a documentation with the percentages of natural organic ingredients, the natural index of your formula, a natural origin index, and an organic origin index, if applicable. So again, this ISO is just a standard method to calculate the percentage of natural organic ingredient in your formula. If you want a certification that your product is natural organic, you need a certification from specific organizations such as Cosmos, Natural, EcoCerts, or the USDA for qualifying products. These specific organizations have their own method to determine if your product is organic or natural, even if they use similar principles for their calculations. To the eyes of the consumers, having this specific natural certification by those organizations may be preferred. And what else to the eyes of the consumers can be challenged depending on your product? Well, the preservative system that you will choose. If you want to know more about that, you can watch this video.